coverage is getting better each and every week. I think the players are figuring it out.
I think there's a huge edge in this thing for good putters and good short game wizards.
Dr. Chapinski. What's it doing again? Yes!
Welcome back to the TGL show. I'm your host, PGA professional Keith Stewart. I am, of course, joined by the one, the only, our TGL resident expert, the Sultan of the SoFi Center, the one, the only, Mr. Joe Idoni. Joe, what's happening, my friend?
Not much, Keith Stewart. Good to see you. Welcome everybody into the show this week. We're getting close to the halfway point in the season. Excited to talk about this week's matchup with you. And we have a very special guest, which we'll introduce here in a couple of seconds, but big episode ahead.
Absolutely. But before we jump ahead or we get to our special guest, a couple takeaways from last week, match 6. You were inside the SoFi Center. And hey, I got to say it, right? We haven't lost. The TGL show has not lost a bet inside the SoFi Center since January 2nd. We are 9-0 in the last set of matches. Like, what is going on in there? What's going on with you? Tell me, give me a couple reactions.
The picks are hot. The picks are red hot, Keith. You know that. I feel like we are as dialed in as anybody is inside the SoFi Center at TGL. So excited for that. Obviously, last match, biggest takeaway, we got a Boston beatdown of the Bay. Largest margin of victory of the entire season. You know, Keith, we got a little bit excited / agitated last week talking about that Rory versus Shane Lowry matchup. You know, I think we were spot on with it. Rory took 4 out of those 5 holes that they were matched up with the tee shot. Boston won both hammers. The Bay went 0 for 3 on those hammers. Dominant performance by Boston, who was winless last season and now currently stands atop the TGL standings, 2-0. Leaders in holes won by 4. So awesome to see them play well again. It was a good match.
Yeah, man. And you know what else is awesome to see? That the TGL show is gaining a little momentum, and we have a very special guest today. We have the one, the only. Now you got to contain yourself, Joe, because we're talking the mastermind behind the Stinger, the mastermind behind Cenote, the mastermind behind 11 of the 27 different holes, but all the holes that you and I like, right? Augie Pizá is with us today, right? Hey, unbelievable architect. Masters from the University of Edinburgh, now here on the TGL show. Worked with the likes of Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, Tom Fazio, even Greg Norman, and he's lived to tell about it. Augie Pizá, welcome to the show.
Well, muchas gracias. How you doing? Excited to be here. Excited to be on your show. Thanks a lot for that warm and kind introduction. And yes, during my career, I've had a fantastic run growing up in the beautiful golf industry, and now we're here.
Oh, and you know what? Here is the TGL, and Joe and I love the stuff that you're doing. I mean, season 2 has been absolutely fantastic. So it begs the question, from my perspective. Let's just jump right into this for a second. I want you to name, and we have fun with these interviews, so I want you to have fun too. But I want you to name your favorite TGL hole that you didn't design.
Alpine.
Now, why Alpine?
I thought it played very nicely with with the roll of the ball. I think that we should be able to see the ball run a little bit more. I think what people are liking about Cenote is in this case, or Alpine, and these holes, is that they see those speed slots or something. It takes a little bit of just a shot making to a journey shot. Enjoy the journey of that ball and where that ball is going to end. I think those extra 7, 8, sometimes 12 seconds are pretty fun out there, and I identify with holes like that. So it's so for me, it's kind of like a good transition of a hole. I love it. That would be my answer.
Well, I tell you what, I have a background as a golf professional. I love when golf is played on the ground, and that's exactly what you're talking about. Now, you might break Joe's heart with this next question, but you might not. What is your favorite hole that you have designed?
All of them. I know I know it sounds corny, but but really, I love the pulse of all of my holes, all of our holes, because it's a great design team that we have under one roof. It's so yes. Now from there, which one probably I like how they're playing. I love Sterling. I love how I love what Sterling brings
All
to
right.
the table. I enjoy Cenote a lot because of what we just spoke about. Instead of just watching a shot or a dart, or a dart to the round table, you're watching a shot that is on a journey. Where is it going to end? It's kind of like, those slot machines or jackpot machines that you're thinking, you're like, all right, yes. And so I like that part. And I don't know, pick your plunder. Even something as let's say strategically simple, like the plank, which is
Oh yeah.
what I think it's a great. It's opened a few of the matches. I think it's a great opening hole. Let's get that out there. Let's just let's do a little strategy, but not a lot. Beautiful, well, at least to me, aesthetic hole going uphill. So it's you see a lot of movement with the cross bunkers coming in diagonal, because diagonal lines symbolize dynamic lines. So it's a very dynamic hole in the visual, and it plays great to the simplicity, which is, as an architect, is one of the toughest things to achieve, the simplicity of the spear, where it just a heroic shot just pinches right there in the middle, and you go for it or you don't. So all of them.
One you didn't mention, my favorite hole in TGL, of course, Stinger. People who watch this show every week will tell you, Augie, I go on and on about this hole. It just fires me up. I love volatility, and I love something that forces players to pull off a shot. How important is finding a design that balances that risk versus reward, and the idea that you can make a bogey or a double bogey or the opportunity for birdie, kind of when you're developing some of these more wild concepts?
Well, Joe, I didn't mention it on purpose because I wanted you to take it away. Let's go. Let's
All right, let's
put it
go.
on stage. I love it. It's one of my, definitely one of my favorites. It has a lot of heart, a lot of soul, and a lot of passion went into it, because we all know, or I think we will. If not, we'll share it here. It's an ode to Tiger Woods,
Yeah.
and that's how it was born. It was, how can we, help immortalize a shot that was immortalized by Tiger Woods. So it was bring that effect or that shot into effect. And so instead of a risk and reward, it's you have it or you don't have it. It's a
Yeah.
black and white. It's just, if you have it or if you don't. Yes. I love how the players are bringing back and dusting off their 1 irons and 2 irons. That's a very rewarding thing, personally speaking, is how, to see them put that couple of clubs in their bag in competition. That was really one of the signs, as a in a language, kind of like saying, hey, we're really enjoying this, we're going to try our best, and we're really here to compete, and I really need to make this go through. So it's been fun. Right now the Stinger is what, 6-8. It was winning the most part of the competition, but now they're starting to figure it out, which is nice. And that's what it's there for. That's what it's there for. It's not for the impossibility. It's just for this is the shot shape you need. Do you have it or you don't?
Augie, all of this, I mean, what you have done to elevate the design of these holes, it makes me think, like, how did you get involved with TGL? It seems like such a perfect match. You're outside the box thinking, but like, where's the origin story here?
Thank you. Well, Keith, it's I think it started in 1972. I was born and I was always running around the house and probably being a little bit of a menace and messing around at the house and my dad called it a menace and my mom called me creative and I was I was very lucky to have that in mind. If not, maybe they would both just suppressed me and then I wouldn't have become that free mind thinker that I like to think I am. So when that happened, now long story short and all kidding aside, it's I think we've always started to challenge golf around 2012. Even during my master's degree that you mentioned, we really went out there on subjects and stuff like that and started, questioning a little bit. I like to think of myself as a critical thinker, and so it's the okay. We've always, or the industry has always done this way for 500 plus years. Could we challenge this? Should we challenge this? And if we challenge it, does it still respect the integrity of the game and the game we love? So it's not just about being, a rebel and stuff like that. It's like, let's do it intellectually. Let's really question, but also grasp the authoritarian side of golf, embrace the history of 500 plus years, which is not an easy thing to do and survive. And if you go in the art history, you will find out that paintings, drawings, architecture, sculpture, it changed through those years in different expressions. And golf, to a certain extent, did not. It still maintained that the strategy and the basic, even though it went through, yes, the penal era, but it came back to the overall strategic era, and we're still designing with heroic, strategic, or penal holes. That's what it is. That's where we're at. Those three types of holes are the combination of an 18-hole composition. But that's what you have to mix. Those three holes at the end. That is what the golf architecture comes down to. So when we started to challenge this, we started creating a little bit of now when we open our own practice in 2006. Of course, at first you begin doing the regular thing, but we hid a thing here and there, like the happy tree in Tampico Country Club. If you look at our website, you'll see the happy tree. It's just a little accent here and there that's a little bit outside the box, but it's still conservative, but it's out there. So we really reached out in the sustainability and thinking outside the little box per se, or just stepping outside the box. And we started to move like that. We started to create multi-purpose golf with some clients that started to believe in us and let us flow with what we thought. So that's an interesting part in our career. It's you can be all the outside thinker you want, but if you don't have if you can be as crazy as you want, but if you don't have a crazy client, you're just become a theorist. Yes. And maybe I'll be writing a book of how it should be done instead of making it done. But that all ends with having and finding those great clients that want something different. So we started to create a little bit of a portfolio on that, and it was to fast forward, and we worked alongside Golf Plus with Ryan Engel because they love the pit. Our pit, if you hashtag the pit 2020, it's one of our very unique designs. It's a golf atmosphere that has all of the shot values that you can think of short game, putting course, and then it turns into a golf lounge in the evening. And so you bring in some fire pits, you put them on the silica sand, because that's a little bit how it was born. It's why do we buy silica sand, so expensive, beautiful sand, just to use it as a hazard? Let's use it as a cool area where you can take your shoes off, come in with sandals, relax, turn on the fire pits in the evening, keep on putting and whatever you want to do, turn on the music. I can't hang a disco ball, but I've tried. And just, you know, you're out there listening to music, and your kids are roasting marshmallows or having some wine, and now you have the non-golfers coming into your atmosphere. So we created a lot of concepts. One is wellness golf that you've probably heard of. Wellness golf is another one of our concepts. As you take your shoes off, connect with nature, you know, and stop and listen to the birds and smell the coffee and relax. Everybody's too busy, you know, just looking at their scorecard, looking at their attack angle, and with the radars and all that stuff. It's like, you know, there's no scorecard at wellness golf. You can just play primitive golf. So anyway, that's how people started to notice us, and through that, we got the call from TMRW in early at the golf around the we're in our anniversary actually around the golf show in 2023 is where we received the invitation by TMRW saying that, hey, you know, we have two of the designers, which was the Nicholas companies, Nicholas Design and Bo Welling, who I knew anyway, so I thought it was pretty cool, and we would like for you to come for an interview and check out your ideas or your philosophy, and we would like you know, a little twist on our three ball, and so that's the semi-short version.
Yeah, Augie, you mentioned two of the other designers there. They've actually introduced a new person into the mix this year with Gil Hands. Now I gotta ask you, because he's rolled out a couple of pretty radical new holes in the middle of the season here. Is there any other maniacal Pizá designs that we're waiting for that we could see in the coming weeks as we approach the end of the season?
There should be one more. I can't disclose it,
Okay.
but there should be one more that
Oh,
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be different. It will have a different atmosphere than Cenote and the Stinger. So you will have that I think the trifecta of Pizá Golf in season two. And yes, to your point, Joe, I'm really enjoying Gil Hands on this foursome. What a great foursome, isn't it? I mean, if we
yeah.
go out there and play together one day, that our fortunate busy schedules will permit, it's been great. I've spent time on the, you know, in the box with Bo Welling. Obviously, you know, with Chad Guts, that he's a member of the American Society, so we've known each other for years. The Nicholas companies, which you know, we have a great relationship with them, and now Gil Hands, that I haven't had the pleasure, but obviously, you know, great admirer of his architecture, and it's such a great foursome. I'm really privileged and honored, to say the least, to be a part of this foursome.
Augie, just the other day, I was cruising through the internet and I came across your TED Talk down in Tijuana. And I found it very interesting. You know, it's just, I mean, there's all this wonderful stuff, these amazing resources on the internet. And I happened to stumble across you. And I love how you gave different inspirational words for every hole. And on the ninth hole, you talked about integrity, but more importantly, you gave a Churchill quote. And you said basically, you have enemies. Well, that's good. That's what Churchill said, right? And you were talking
Yes.
about having integrity in your work and everything. A lot of people, they don't always they become critical of what TGL is doing or your TGL designs or whatever. What's your message to those folks? Because Churchill he would think it was good that you have some enemies that are trying to challenge some of your viewpoints on these designs.
Yes, that's a beautiful quote. I mean, I won't even dare to quote this, you know, at the end, because Churchill was in a very elevated place intellectually, and I enjoy a lot of his quotes. I enjoy, you know, Oscar Wilde's quotes. I mean, I
Wow.
love stuff like that, and it's more of a matter of believing in oneself. And thanks for mentioning that TED Talk in my beloved TJ, my Tijuana. Shout out to all the everybody out there. And yes, it was a TED talk where I designed on 18 holes, that every hole like take you into this adventure of how key words have accompanied me throughout my career. One being integrity, and I finish off with the 19th hole being a gratitude. Yes. So I don't know what I've always thought of parallelism when we are thinking about TGL. I don't understand, why would you engage negatively on something that it's running in parallel to the game we love?
Yeah.
Yes, it is a beautiful fork that we're creating now. Before, maybe it was just, a 2-lane fork. Now, with all the off course options that we have, it's a 6 lane fork. Why wouldn't we embrace it? If you don't have to go on every lane. You can stay on the purest lane. You can stay there. And I'm sure that 5, 8, 10, 15, 20% of the other lines will integrate into the line that we all grew up in. So for me, it's complementary. And I get those. I sometimes get those, on the internet, and because now everybody, has an opinion, and 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 is eager to tell you that they have an opinion, and they write it down, and I really don't engage, and you can't really fall in love with the praise, as you shouldn't, um, you know, engage with the non-praise, or the other part of the spectrum. We and I believe a lot in what we do, and sometimes it's not for everybody, and that's the beauty of it, isn't it? I mean, that's the beauty of it. It's like bands. My favorite band of all time has been the Smiths, and it's not for
Oh,
everybody. It's not for everybody. I grew up, since I was 11, 12, 13 years old, and that was the band that I was listening to while everybody was listening to Madonna and pop and mainstream. And I'm like, and the criticism that I've received since I was that age, it's still out there, and I love it. So I've been through that gymnastics almost all my life, because I'm very different, not only in architecture. I'm very different in the arts, or in my way of thinking and being.
well, Augie, here's the thing. My grandfather used to always say that burglars don't rob empty houses. You obviously have a full house, and that's why the folks are coming after you. Joe, do you have one more
Thank you.
question for Augie before we get out of here?
No, you know what? Thank you for your time. Thank you for being so fantastically compelling. And on behalf of Keith and myself, the TGL, and the people who watch TGL, thank you for pushing the limits. Like, this is what people asked for, and you delivered more than anyone else. And I'm on the edge of my seat here. You can't see me, but ready for the holy trinity of season 2 holes when that thing comes out. I can't wait to see it. So we really appreciate your time. You're awesome. So thanks a lot for being here.
Thank you for making me feel at home. That's what TGL has done throughout, from everybody in TGL has always made me feel at home. And here I feel no different. Thank you very much for hosting me. And I'll see you soon.
Absolutely.
Sounds good.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Augie.
Joe, I know you're dying now. I love you just coined that, the holy
gotta see.
trinity of Augie Pizá. Oh my good. You're dying right now to know what this hole is.
Yeah, I might
I
need to
just know
I
you.
might need to find a way to message him to get a sneak peek. I don't know if I can wait.
I'm sure if the resident king of the SoFi Center can't get a sneak peek, then there's no hope for any of us. That's for sure.
All right, where do we go from here? You want to hit some power rankings, or what? You want to talk about this week?
Yeah, cue it up. Let's do it. All right, Joe, we don't have much movement at the top here, right? Atlanta still sits at the top. Then you got Boston, LA. Here's what I'm thinking about. The playoffs, the SoFi, Cup playoffs get 4 teams. This bottom 3, do you have a team that is kind of catching your attention that you think is at some point in the second half of the season is going to say, we want to be in the playoffs, or are all of them just going to keep running in the other direction?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's New York right now. They obviously they had the 1-1 start. Important for them that they were able to win, that full 8 points in that matchup versus Jupiter, because as these teams, the Bay hasn't played them yet, and they've obviously been struggling, but you need to get out there in front and stack as many points as you can and win as many holes, because that's ultimately what matters. So they're at 11 points in terms of holes won. They're 1-1. The other 2 teams are 0-2. So they're at a big advantage spot. I think they're more talented from a roster standpoint, from a depth standpoint. They have Ricky as their 4th player who's, played as many holes in the SoFi Center as anyone. We know Ben Griffin's kind of itching to get into that lineup as well as a reserve. So they're deep. They're talented, and I think they're ultimately going to be that 4th team.
I mean, I definitely can't disagree with you there. We haven't seen them in a little while, but these other 2 teams we have seen, they're just not near the level of certainly the top 3, and New York has got some firepower for sure. I'm good with that. No movement, even with
I flipped Boston and LA. If you've noticed the FanDuel season odds now, Boston is the favorite to win this season of TGL, which is a pretty wild thing. They're now plus 260 over on FanDuel. So, coming from a team who couldn't win a match last season, they're now the favorites to win season 2. I'm still unwilling to unseat Atlanta Drive. They've won 9 out of 10 matches in TGL. So until one of these teams knock them off, I can't take them out of that 1 spot. But I did bump Boston up into the 2 hole there.
All right, you're already talking about Atlanta Drive. Let's jump right into the match preview.
That is Tiger at its best.
All right, Joe, the lineup cards came out, and I mean, I'm already losing my mind, and I'm sure you did when you saw the lineup card come out the other day too. But I'll give it to you before you and I both go on a rant. We got teeing off first is going to be Jupiter Links Golf Club. They have the honor. You're going to see Akshay Bhatia followed by Max Homa and then Kevin Kisner, and then the Atlanta Drive Golf Club. They have Chris Gotterup filling in, Lucas Glover, his first match of the season, and then followed up with the MVP of the SoFi Center, of course, none other than Billy Horschel. Team coordinator Rob McNamara for Jupiter Links has his hands full with the number 1 coordinator in the league, our favorite, Mr. Ben Helmrath. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, Atlanta's won 9 out of 10 matches, and a lot of that I think is on the shoulders of Ben. They are the most strategic and analytically driven team in the league, and that's not by a small margin, as you know. Arguably, though, I will say this: maybe missing their 2 best players in terms of overall talent scope in JT and Cantlay, but his match is once again being played on Palm Beach State College, which is the house that Horschel built, as we've talked about. So. Yeah. Gotterup's been awesome. They insert Lucas Glover, who I'm sure we'll talk about later, who's coming off a shoulder surgery. So there are some question marks there on rust. But look, they won this matchup last year 9-1 against Jupiter, and they played that with Glover, Horschel, and at the time they played that matchup with Nick Dunlap, who was a sub and a reserve when they played the first time around. Gotterup obviously just won the Sony. He's been awesome. So I think a little bit of an upgrade there. And where's Tom Kim?
Yeah, I mean that's one conversation.
Yeah,
to have. But I mean, what is Jupiter doing? What are we doing? Okay, I understand Kevin Kisner's a part of the team. Where's Tom Kim? There's a whole argument about that. But do these guys they need to listen to the interview with Augie and maybe some of the other architects, or talk to somebody about how these holes are designed. Look at the lineup of holes. They start with Kisner on Cenote. He couldn't reach the ramp last time, Joe. What are we doing? Right? Like, what's the game plan here? Then we're going to the plank. It's a drivable par 4. He's the only one on that team that can't drive the par 4. Right? And then we're doing a couple par 5s. I mean, I'm going to stop because I'm going to lose my mind. Like, that match, right? Like, these head-to-heads, Akshay versus Gotterup, those guys, I mean, talk to me a little bit more about how these head-to-heads are going to break down before we get into the golf course primarily.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we know that the big thing in here is putting is so pivotal and so key. And Jupiter has actually been pretty solid from tee to green. They're the worst team in the league inside of 10 feet. They're hitting like 55% of putts in the season, which just isn't nearly good enough. And we know how good Atlanta is at scrambling and around the green, right? They've chipped in numerous times. They're one of the best putting teams. And a lot of that is, Ben's there early. Right? He's mapping these whole locations out. They have a plan. And I don't know that Rob McNamara, who's busy as the VP of TGR and on the board at full swing, is in there putting in the same amount of work that Ben is doing. I don't think anybody's putting in the same amount of work that Ben's doing. So I think the lopsidedness of the two teams and the players that are competing, the margin is slim, right? The lopsidedness between strategy and how they're utilizing and playing the game of TGL is chasmic. So that's where the biggest difference is between these two teams. And that's why one has won 9 out of 10 matches and one has won 1 match ever.
All right. The golf course. We're going to see 7 new season 2 holes, 2 of which are home team holes. So we're always going to get 2 new ones every week with whoever is in the match. But we've got 5 others. We've got a double shot of Gill right out of the chute. Then we go to Augie and Cenote. Then you have a hometown hole. So the first 4 holes right off the bat are all brand new. 7, we're going to see last hole again. That's for the first time. That's going to have a lefty. So that's kind of cool. When the golf course breaks down, overall yardage this week, I know you love to hear these things from me. 5,800 yards. Last time Jupiter Links was in the SoFi Center, they gave him a 6,100-yard golf course. We saw that turned out. They've shrunk the golf course for him. Average par 4s are down to like 413 yards. This is a short golf course for these guys. It may give Jupiter a chance. Fairways are tough to hit on this golf course. Guys are only hitting them 60% of the time. What do you think about Match 7's scorecard?
Yeah, I mean, Jupiter's been hitting fairways at a pretty large rate. You mentioned these are the 2 shortest teams in terms of driving distance in TGL. So I think a shorter golf course opens them up to have birdie opportunities, which is, what the fans are looking for inside the SoFi Center there. We open up with Cut the Sails, was a hole that we saw last week. I would love to see some more risk in play in that hole. It doesn't seem like unless you go in the water that there's that same amount of volatility that, gets me fired up like Stinger and some of those other holes. But exciting. Another one, they move up the plank, right, to 305, like you said. So that becomes a drivable hole now, which they've done from time to time. We've seen a lot of players get there. Obviously, Horschel has the firepower to go 305, and Kisner only averaging 285 off the league is last in TGL in terms of driving distance. So I think disadvantaged in that spot, and then him having to go head to head on 2 par 5s and hit the tee shots was probably was definitely a miscalculation in terms of lineup construction. And you just like we talked about this, right? You want to give yourself the best chance to succeed. And the job of that manager of the team is to give you the highest probability of success. Now, is that always going to work out? If you play blackjack perfectly, it's not always going to work out. But if you play by the numbers, you give yourself the best chance to succeed and walk away with that with a win. And it seems like they didn't do that.
Yeah, I just don't understand. I mean, they have other options there between, Akshay or between Max. And if they're setting up, a certain, lineup card for Stinger and some other holes, but like it just didn't seem to make any sense to me. And it's going to be difficult for you or I to say, hey, that we're not betting. We're going to try and find the best number. The best number right now that you can get is -168 on DraftKings, plus 134. So -168 on the drive, plus 134 on Jupiter Links. That number is probably going to fluctuate a lot depending on when people start to see the Jupiter Links team and they'll say, you know what? Maybe the difference between these 2 teams is about the height of Stinger off the tee, right? Like maybe it is a little more narrow than we think, but you and I both know it's not. But take me down a road that's a little bit winding, right? Like, can Jupiter, what would be the path to victory for Jupiter? Let's just for argument's sake, right? Like we're beating a drum here on the drive, on Ben, all of it, right? Like they're missing their 2 best players. You said it. take me down the process of how could Jupiter Links pull this off? And if they did, how would they do it, Joe?
Kiz has got to have some holes, and he's done that before. He actually did that on Cenote, even though he didn't hit the Cape. Sahith blew it out of the water, so he actually won that hole. But it's going to come down. Like, if they're going to win, the path is through Max Homa.
Oh,
And he has to
all right.
dominate Lucas Glover, who, in my opinion, is likely to show some rust coming off that surgery. They play the hardest set of holes, in my opinion, of any of the lineup spots, which should be an advantageous position for Max, who's played a lot more golf, who's been practicing, who's been playing tour events, who's played in 2 TGL matches. He is 100% in terms of greens and reg for the season. So Homa's been very solid. Now, he needs to make some more putts, but the key cog and component that needs to clean up points for Jupiter Links to have a chance to get off the schneid is Max Homa has to clean up those 2 single holes and play very well and be the leader of that team.
Yeah, and that's it. It's a tall order, but I do agree with you. If they can get 2 points from him and they can hold suit with Kisner, then that leadoff match, that head-to-head between Akshay and Goddard all day, they have a chance. I mean, it starts with cut the sails right off the tee, right off the first tee. Goddard, yeah, he's got that nice big power fade that kind of works over that dune, but Akshay could sling one left to right with his draw, and he could knock it down there too. And then right off the bat, you're going Max versus Glover on a touch shot, and you can grab an early lead that way. So I 100% agree with you that if they are going to do it, then that's the way they'll do it. I'm guessing, though, at the end of the day, that if you are giving me a pick for a team, that you're not going to put our 9-0 at risk with Jupiter Links. Are you gonna stick with the Atlanta Drive and number 1 on your power rankings? Like, I have to have you say it.
Look, I love a good risk reward, and Jupiter is that this week given the odds, but I'm not betting against Atlanta. I'll probably look to attack them in some of the shorter markets as well, which we've had a ton of success with. And the other thing, like, I'm going to look out for, and one of the notes on kind of the prop side, which we've done very well at. So Blue Bonnet, the hole that Max Homa and Glover will go head to head on.
Talk to me.
They move the tees all the way back. It's as long as it can play. It's 467. Now, this is a hole that is volatile, right? There's been 7 tee shots on this hole throughout TGL that have gone into the penalty area, the most of any hole. Now, here's the thing with the wagering and betting odds is the odds makers don't understand the volatility that a particular hole brings. And any time that you introduce volatility like penalty shots, the likelihood of that hole being tied diminishes, right? Volatility up, likelihood of tie down. And that's what makes those, if you want to take an individual player, plus 280, plus 290, plus 300, it makes that so much more valuable when the odds of that hole being tied are much lower, right? So that hole, 7 tee shots have been in the water. You can grab Max Homa, probably a big time plus money on that hole. That might be a market as these sort of props and individual hole bets come out over the next day or so that I'll look to attack. But of course, as you know, I'll be in the SoFi Center. I'm touching turf once again. So we'll have those picks out live before the match here on Monday night. Folks, 5 p.m. start Monday, by the way, for anyone checking out the show. Early start.
Early start. Hey, week after week. Just preach, brother. You prove it. You prove it week after week. The picks are there. Even the frog was listening to you last week. I saw the video. I saw it. I saw what was going on. Hey, 9-0, 9 in a row, whatever you want to call it. It's been a month, right? It's going to be the second. It was match 2. I mean, we're talking a long time here that we've been cleaning up, and it's large in part to how much you are, all the work you're doing inside the SoFi Center, and basically all the work you're doing on this show. So, yeah, on behalf of the audience, who I have to thank for being here, we couldn't be more excited for what you bring to the table there, Mr. Idoni. And of course, I have to thank our producers. I've got to thank Tomorrow Sports for all of their support for the show. You said it, 5 p.m., ESPN2, match 7. It's happening. This show gets released. We have one more week, Joe, match 8. And then we take that little break for the Genesis Invitational. And then we come back. We've got 100 matches in 10 days. No, we've got 7 matches in 10 days. I mean, this thing's going to come rapid fire. What's your reaction for what we should expect after we get back from the break.
Yeah, Florida swing thing heats up fast and furious. You know, they intentionally wanted, Rory actually talked about this last week, that they wanted to kind of tighten up the schedule this year a little bit. They want to make sure they're out of there before the players. So we'll tighten this thing up. We'll get it all wrapped up sort of right here during the Florida swing and get these guys in and out so they can full-time focus back on the PGA Tour. But exciting couple of weeks to come. We're going to be covering double headers. We'll have the match next week, and then we'll really be on our toes trying to fit 2 or 3 of these into one episode.
Yeah, next week they're back at 7 p.m. Battle of California, the Bay versus LA. Joe Idoni, I mean, just killer interview with Augie Pizá. I mean, we can't thank him enough for being with us.
Awesome.
I'm your host, Keith Stewart. Of course, this is the TGL Show. Peace, everybody.